So, Ms. Kumar, as a practitioner deeply involved in insolvency and commercial litigation, what do you see as the most pressing challenge facing the insolvency ecosystem in India today?
I believe the most pressing challenge for the insolvency regime in India is capacity as well as ensuring that the insolvency ecosystem provides for quality within the ethical parameters. I believe these three things, if can be catered to in the manner of policy or in the manner of practice, either ways, or if we have both, then perfect. Then these pressing issues of capacity as well as infrastructure and having a centralized as well as a decentralized agencies to ensure that there is quality that is emitted insolvency ecosystem, not only through the services of lawyers but also through the services of the judiciary. That is what I feel is the most pressing issue.
So, connected to that, from your experience before the NCLTs and the appellate forums, how has the role of young practitioners and boutique chambers involved in insolvency and restructuring matters evolved?
Okay, so I think we had initially a time from 2016 when insolvency had come in to say 2018-19, where we saw primarily the dirty dozen, the first ones which were notified by RBI, or the second dirty dozen as we call it, which was notified by RBI, and we saw a lot of dispute in terms of the admission of insolvency and of looking at how the law should be settled in terms when at the stage of admission, say a section 7 or a 9, and we had all those judgments of innovative mobilox coming in the way, and we had Swiss ribbons which really settled the law. Then and in that regard, we saw the small law firms and boutique law firms not really being a part of it because of the fact that the stakes were very high. So which ended up going to the tier 1 for obvious reasons, for quality and of course the confidence the tier 1 firms reposed. But after that, we saw the resolution plan era, which was for these dirty dozens, which again did not have a lot of exposure for the boutique law firms. But I believe with as soon as those dirty dozens were out and the death claims which were involved in the matters reduced, we saw a lot of boutique firms coming up for the purpose of insolvency, and we also saw that the interplay of insolvency with other laws, allowing law firms not only of insolvency but other areas, sector areas, that were the ones that really came in. And now we have personal insolvency, which has been notified, and matters have started coming in. So considering that where personal insolvency's threshold is also very minimal, we have seen that the practice of boutique chambers and small law firms in insolvency is ever growing.
So, what do you think that how do platforms like the ILA conference help bridge the gap between theory, policy, and real world insolvency practice?
Yes, that's one of the most interesting questions, and I would say that is the reason I myself am here, is that ILA has been very consistent with looking at the industry standards because it is headed by one of the most well-known and well-experienced person in the insolvency regime in India, that is Mr. Batra. And he understanding how the industry works, being able to pitch in projects, strategically understanding how it would pan out before a policymaker, and to ensure that the project is able to kind of focus on, say, a limited scope but an effective scope. For instance, I think one paper which was done on the hybrid insolvency by the ILA is now finding acceptance by creditor initiated insolvency, which is a part of the amendment bill. We also see a lot of papers done by them on cross-border insolvency, which is something that is still to come. So I think ILA is an organization which looks at practical difficulties, looks at difficulties also which are not being looked at but are a bottleneck for the entire process to be efficiently and timely completed, and then forms a kind of a committee of persons who would be most apt to give suggestions, and puts it across to the policy makers in order for the policy to come in. So it's a perfectly curated organization from industry to policy.
I agree. And lastly, what advice would you give to the young lawyers and insolvency professionals attending ILA 2026 who wish to build a long term career in insolvency law?
Right. So I would suggest that if you're passionate about insolvency and if you want to see India to be on the map of the world as the top on insolvency, I believe you should start reading the international law on insolvency in order to understand what are the kind of different models that are there in the world and which would mostly apply to India. For instance, I am a very strong believer of mediation, and I myself read a lot about mediation not very long back, about 3 years back, and I understood that mediation is something that if brought into insolvency will change the color of it, because what is it that you are doing when you're sitting in a COC with the RP and coming to a consensus of how the company should be resolved. So what my suggestion is that keep yourself open, read as much as you can, be shameless in being opinionated, and give your opinions very clearly, discuss it out with everybody, and then come to a conclusion which will help. And in terms of practice building, I think that is something that's a longest type of answer, but a very very short point I would say: in order to build practice in insolvency, don't bother about the numbers, bother about the legal issue in it, and you will get to the numbers.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Eshna,
you.
for taking out the time to answer my questions.
Thank you.
It was really nice to interview you.
Thank you so much.